Hello. Thank you, everybody who's decided that they're going to take the opportunity
The
to
following footage was
listen to the
submitted to
director's
evidence from the
commentary of Do,
Alachakee County
short
Sheriff's
film by
Department
me,
in August
J.A. Ross, written,
2023.
directed, edited,
It is believed that those
a couple
involved
other
were
things.
credited
Right
using
off the
these
bat,
systems. The footage
you'll notice
remains
that police thing at
unedited
the
for the
beginning.
purpose of
I made
uncovering
that.
as
If you
much
couldn't tell, it's
information
pretty
as
cheap, but a
possible.
lot of those
The
like
consequence
police
of the
shields
footage
for
is both
individual
tragic
departments
and
kind of look like
disturbing.
that.
The
This
body
was
was
not
deceased
originally the idea I
and
had
never
when
known to
writing
be
it.
discovered.
This was
If
something
you
that
or
came
someone
along
you know has
that I kind of
information that may
kept
help
in
identify the
as an
survivors
ace up
or
my
aid the
sleeve
investigation in any way,
in the
please
production period.
contact the Alachakee County Sheriff's
Originally,
Department.
Do was something that was going to be filmed in a theater space, and about like a month and a half out from when we had kind of talked about filming this, we found out that the university wasn't going to let us use the spaces because everybody had to be, excuse me, a student. So no hard feelings, just like soft to medium feelings about that still. So I had to make some changes, and that was kind of an idea that came up to me as we were rolling cameras that I kept secret actually until I showed the film to the cast the day before I released it to the public. Right here, this shot right here actually was originally two shots put together, and I had
Oh,
colored
I didn't
matched
know
both
this.
sides
Don't
pretty
be
well.
all
It was split right
universal.
down the
I
middle
know, but
of
it
the
never
Hyundai.
sounds like you're being genuine.
However,
What is
I
this
got
essential
all the
detail
colors
about?
matched except for the
Define
house for some
match.
reason. It just I couldn't match the house colors, so I went ahead and used one shot, and then Corey fortunately was pretty consistent with his take, so I was able to edit audio over a different take.
So, what's wrong?
Nicholas.
Nothing. I'm just
Nicholas
looking
came in
around.
sort of
She's
last
nervous.
minute to all
For
this. I
rehearsal,
was originally going to play that
You're right.
part, and I went back and forth on, hey, can we cast someone else? Can we not? And Corey and Andrea weren't as excited about me replacing myself,
We got
but
it.
it ultimately was the best idea. Um,
Hey, gang.
just in terms of
How are you feeling?
workload,
Good.
I would have not been able to
Good.
manage acting and doing everything else that I had to do with such a small crew.
Hey, you don't sound so sure.
Russ, as a director,
It's just the nervous excitement.
he was somebody that I had in mind pretty much the whole time. We talked about other actors, but I was like, hey,
What
Corey,
it to do
what
today
about that
in
guy
a
that
minute or two?
was your director at college?
What it to
I'd
do
seen him in
today in a
like
minute
a
or
web
two?
series Corey had been a part of,
What it to do
and I thought he was great.
today?
And
I do have a question, Mr.
I really
Synth.
wanted him for the role.
Remember,
A role,
director.
if you couldn't tell, inspired
Oh,
by
right.
Whiplash.
Director. I did have a
Um,
question. Should I start off screen or would it be
yeah,
more interesting
thus
if I
the kind
started
of
on
all
screen
black
doing something?
attire, this kind of director
You know,
vibe.
I like where your head's at. Let's wait until we get on
He
set.
just has a
and
great
discuss.
look. The way he furrows his
Sound
brow. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Great. 30 seconds.
That's the thing, Robert. I've outgrown this place.
You'll notice there's some
This
fades in
town.
here. I'm not normally
There's no
like,
formula.
hey, in modern cinema or
Can
films, I'm
you
not
even
a
say
big
what you
film
mean?
of
What
big
it means
fan
for
of
us?
fades between scenes.
Because I don't know
But
what it means for us.
I was going for something a little more along the lines of
Why don't you think about
70s,
something that
and
really
certainly there was a lot more fades
something
back
like
in the
that?
70s, 60s, 70s. Specifically, had a lot more fade
Now,
transitions
what
between
you
scenes.
imagine
So I
that the
use
only thing
some
standing in
more
the
here
way
than
of
I'd
you
probably be
reaching that
comfortable
goal
with in a different film.
are some people that don't think you're on the right path because, well, simply they don't believe in you.
I don't really think
Russ
Robert
does a
wants
great
me to
job
believe in
playing
him.
it cool. He seems like a sweet guy, and then this moment, the eye is closed. He could have eye rolled, but
However,
this
Maria
eyes closed,
doesn't
really taking
understand
in what Corey's saying,
why Robert wouldn't want her to leave.
and then kind of giving him
So
this.
she has to kind of fill in the blanks herself.
Hold on, wait for it.
Make sense?
Makes sense. So my college professor slash director, Ken McCullough, wonderful man, beautiful soul. But he was hard on us, and he used to say "make
So
sense" a lot,
you're
and it would drive
telling me that
every
you
single
grew
one of
up
us
here, your
crazy. So
parents
Ken, if you ever
named you
see this, we
Maria
love
after the
you,
founders,
but
right?
that was the bane of my existence. A lot of those late nights
Hey,
in the
Robert,
theater space.
I've outgrown this place, this town. There's nothing for me here.
The scene within the scene here, kind of the idea when this was originally supposed to be set in a theater space
Roots
rather
for
than a
us.
house, and when it was going to be a theater piece within the film
I
rather than
wonder
the film
what
within
it
a
means
film,
for
I
us.
had this idea of like a Tennessee Williams play. So some of the
Synth
language,
starts.
despite the deliveries being
Some
modern,
facts,
is a
file,
little dated, purposefully so.
Why don't we try to keep going next time we mess up so as not to take Andrea out of the
And
movie?
originally what happened, so originally what happens there is it kind of gives this idea that maybe he forgot a line or something, but there was something shot there where she turns and Corey accidentally brushes her boob, and then there's this whole goofy moment there, and I just didn't feel like ultimately it fit the spirit of the film when everything was said and done.
Whatever you do, just please spare me the pain of ever having to see you deliver lines like that again.
Yeah.
Kills it.
Totally
Just kills it
flat
with
out.
that. It's fucking
Director.
so mean.
Sorry, babe.
It's fine.
Go.
And I wrote this piece of synth music, or this shot. So I had been watching a lot of The Curse on Showtime at the time, and they have these very voyeuristic shots, and I kind of liked that. So as I was trying to find ways to make this stand out a little bit and differentiate itself, incorporating something like that kind of became a priority for me, and that was as good a moment as any to throw in this through the window thing. No, there's no Michael Myers out there or anything like that. I just wanted it to be one of these shots that makes the audience kind of go, what?
Notice you're late.
So he's on one?
To put it nicely.
Love that.
Let's go in 30 seconds.
And Nicholas kind of took this dialogue that I wrote for myself, where I was kind of supposed to be this like lovable kind of douchebag, and he made it his own. And I don't really get a whole lot of douche from him. It's just like kind of a cool guy. His character within this is not. Matthew's clearly an asshole, but Nicholas brought his own energy to the lines written specifically for me, and I really, really appreciate what he did with them.
Dead or alive, I'm gonna get it.
Matthew, this ain't the time.
It's the perfect goddamn time.
Boom. That slap, that slap sounds like the actual slap. Andrea was so afraid of hurting Nicholas that I ended up dubbing the
Would you like to
slap.
start with how long you're taking to get through the moment, or how long it took you to get to my rehearsal? You choose.
You're right. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I was late.
Congratulations.
And you'll notice these shots, if you know the 180-degree roll, it's kind of hard to speak to without demonstrating, but think of you, the audience, as being in the theater itself. And typically the 180-degree roll is that the camera stays on the same side of all the actors, so it's kind of the audience's eye watching them. But you'll notice that like this is just Andrea and Corey, and the next shot might be Andrea looking at Nicholas, and this is a good example of the 180-degree rule. The camera stays on the same side. We never go to the counter side of them.
This ain't the time.
It's the perfect goddamn
But then
time.
you get these solo shots where somebody might be isolated in the frame from everybody else to show in that moment how they stand alone, which you see the director by himself a lot up to this point.
I said no.
So I don't break the 180-degree rule with the director. I just kind of film him
My father was obsessed with this
film him
godforsaken
isolated
town.
a lot.
He loved it. Sometimes.
And I wouldn't say that I might. It's kind of breaking the rule, but it's more of a bending because I am filming him from what would be
Getting
considered
wrapped
the
up in
opposite
silly
side.
rich affairs
But
like
because
betting
of where they
alcohol
are in
and playing
relation to
games
him,
for
it doesn't
money,
necessarily
like,
feel as if
one
I've
more
broken
day
the
he lives in his
180-degree rule.
planted firmly in God's country, as he called it. But I've been here all my life, all 20 years of it now, and I can't.
This
seem to find
monologue
one single thing
kind of
worth my father's
parallels
love,
this journey that
let alone God's.
this Maria monologue kind of parallels this journey that Andrea is going on coming in, where she's nervous, getting into all of this, afraid that he might introduce a prop or props, which, if you hopefully you've watched this before, know that he ultimately does, but it kind of acts as a catalyst for something that you're probably not expecting. But here, her character within the character is kind of finding the strength to stand up for herself.
But that does not make this a place in which you can simply barge in at your leisure. I am more than a fiance. I am more than my father's daughter. And I am most certainly more than anything this town has to offer. I am me. I am Maria Belafonte.
Again, just the last line.
I am Maria Belafonte.
So then they start into this kind of repetition
I am
thing, and
Maria
there's
Belafonte.
within
Again.
I
some
am Maria
different method
Belafonte.
practices, there's
Again,
this idea of
again.
repetition.
I am Maria
It's
Belafonte. I am Maria
not even necessarily tied to
Belafonte.
method
I
all
am
the time. In a
Maria
lot of theater,
Belafonte.
they'll run you through these repetition exercises where you say the same thing over and over and over again until it kind of not necessarily loses its power, but it just becomes a thing that you say, and then the idea being that it is now
Stop.
delivered more naturally.
It's beautiful.
The smug smile,
Work for a moment.
you know, kind of robbing her of power without acknowledging that he's
Incredible.
giving himself the credit for what has just happened,
You are Maria Belafonte.
and now rewarding her.
Page come to life. Handsome and full.
Intentionally keeping out of frame what he's handing her. Now they are together in this frame. We've crossed over the plane here. They're totally isolated from the other guys in the room. And it's the first time we see the director outside of his introduction to them in the front room. First time we see him with somebody in a handful of minutes
And
here.
now, Matthew, if you would
Then
kindly get
boom,
the hell out of my
pulls a
home.
knife.
Girl, please put that knife.
Shout out to
real?
Glenn Purdy and Matt Mallard for
This
helping
fucking
me
thing isn't real.
get these real knives
Director.
Are you serious?
into a shape that they could be used where they weren't going to hurt anybody. This is two different shots right here that I faded between with a strange fade. I love this music.
Not great character.
This quickly became one of my favorite exchanges, this whip back and forth. And both of those are different shots stitched together through the pan. I debated showing this. I wasn't sure if it was overkill. And sometimes I see it and still feel like it's overkill. I think ultimately it adds to the moment with Corey afterwards.
Sorry. Maria, what did you do?
Great movement, Corey.
This weird sinking back into total calmness.
He wasn't even gonna stop.
Andrea reaching for this emotion that's someplace inside. Corey speaking more to Andrea than he is Maria, but understanding the peril of crossing the director again here.
It's okay. I'm gonna protect you, Andrea.
In that moment, we realize here, like, no, she's fully gone. She's bought into this sick, twisted idea of method acting that the director prescribes to, which is kind of my whole point, the whole inspiration behind this. Is that there's a lot of people in modern acting and cinema specifically that have taken this idea of method acting, the teachings of like Stanislavski et al., and twisted them into something that is more singular and self-aggrandizing than it is a tool to help boost everybody around them. Which, if you're not making the scene easier for your partner, then you're not really that great of an actor. Sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings out there. I love the music build here. The only time you see all four people in frame, Nicholas's foot in the bottom left, and everybody else, all four people in frame for the only time in the entire film. She's been fully actualized at this point. She's now completely Maria. Corey doing a good job not moving or breathing there. Now more than the first time, when we see Nicholas look into the camera and there's that moment of like, wait, is he looking in the camera? This is full on breaching kind of the fourth wall, acknowledging that this is maybe not what it seems like it is up to this point for the audience. This disembodied applause, where's that coming from? And then boom, we go and cut into what is seemingly reality, bringing the intro rolling, I don't know what to call that, the words that roll at the beginning, kind of the preface, I guess, or prologue, full circle here, understanding what it was referring to now. Calling Andrea Maria, so playing into the idea now that Andrea actually believes she is Maria behind the scenes as well. And then Benny and Josh moving the body. Josh is closer to us. Josh actually had a cameo in this originally, but same with the boob brush that I alluded to earlier. It just kind of, the director had a good blow up when it happens, but Josh's appearance kind of played too comedically, and when I got to editing this, it just didn't fit the tone any longer. When I wrote this, it felt a lot more like a black comedy, and I certainly think that if you lean on the director's dialogue, that those things are still there. But those other moments that I cut out kind of took it out of black comedy and just put it firmly in kind of broad comedy, and I wanted to avoid that. I'm not very good at broad comedy, so I kept it what it was. Thank you for listening to the director's commentary of Do, the short film. If you have any more questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments here or on the original video if you go back and watch that, and I'll be happy to respond in the comments. Thank you.